Welcome into 5 Wide Fantasy. Today's video, start or sit wide receivers for week 2. Going through each and every matchup this week to help you decide which wide receivers you should be going with in your lineups. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, like the video if you enjoyed, and let us know start sit decisions that you're trying to make. We're happy to help in the comment section down below. And of course, check out our partners over at BetFred. Bet 50, get 250 this week in the NFL. Don't know how you could say no to free money? That link is down below in the description.
Yeah, all you need to do, make a $50 deposit, make a $50 bet. Regardless, win or loss, you're getting $250 in free bet credits for NFL Week 2. So get on there.
Yeah. All right, so Friday, so we're getting right into the Sunday slate. Patriots, Steelers. For me, pretty well a stay away spot for most of the receiver or most of the guys in the receiver position here. Devontae Parker did lead the Patriots in routes run. The Steelers secondary had a great day last week. That's well documented. Ryan knows all about that.
Yes.
And then Steelers side, I know Claypool probably had the best day, but Deontay Johnson led the team in targets with like 10 or 11. So he'd be the only guy I think I could confidently run out there.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Deontay Johnson for sure. We didn't really see much from George Pickens. It did look like Chase Claypool was Trubisky's second target against the Bengals there. And on the Patriots side of things, to be honest, this Steelers secondary did look really good. I think, to be honest, the only efficient passing option that Joe Burrow had in week 1 was Jamar Chase. And I think that's just on pure talent. So you're looking at this Patriots wide receiver room compared to the Bengals. You got guys like Devontae Parker and Jacoby Myers. I don't think they're really going to be helping your lineups this week. It's going to be a gritty game, low scoring, so I would stay away from the receivers.
And the Steelers were pretty poor against the run last season, so you could see the Patriots want to put this thing on the ground.
And TJ Watt out.
And Watt out, yeah, 100%. All right, next one up, Colts, Jaguars. To me, I talked about this in our DFS video that I think Paris Campbell could be a sneaky play this week. He was the clear 2 in terms of routes run for the Colts. The Jags, pretty brutal pass coverage and pretty brutal in terms of tackling. That was on display last week against the Commanders. So if you're in a deeper league, I do think Paris Campbell, if he's on your wire or if he's on your team, could take a flyer on this week. The other ones being, obviously, we're gonna fire away on Michael Pittman. And then what do you think of the Jags?
Yeah, the Jags offense this week. I'm staying away from Jones squared on the outside there, Zay Jones and Marvin Jones. With Stephon Gilmore there, he's going to be matched up with one of those guys every single time. That's a mismatch hell for Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. And he never lines up in the slot, whereas Tyler's favorite receiver lines up, Christian Kirk. So Christian Kirk I would still play, but the other 2 guys I would definitely not start. I don't think I would start them even in a good matchup. This is a horrible matchup for them. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I would pretty much start any Colts receiver this week. Pittman and Paris Campbell in DFS leagues, he's priced super well. So
I think you're right on with the Jags. Zay Jones had a good day in week 1, but again, this is a tough game for them. I know it's another divisional game; those tend to be low scoring. So even with Christian Kirk, I'm not super excited about this matchup. I had someone in our last video asking about Chase Edmonds or Christian Kirk. I would play Chase Edmonds if we're looking at the flex spot. So not crazy high on Kirk this week in terms of keeping up with his output from last week. Moving to Commanders, Lions. This should be a game where both teams can move the ball through the air pretty well, and they both did it last week. I'm definitely looking to play Amara St. Brown and TJ Hawkinson. I'm excited about. Where do you fall on Mr. DJ Chark?
I would start, to be honest, I wrote on my notes, you can start pretty much anyone in this matchup.
Yeah.
I would start Chark. He had a decent amount of target share last week. He was on the field a lot. So against this Commanders secondary, which we saw the Jags kind of exploit to a certain degree, some receivers we saw Christian Kirk have a really good game. I think you could start those guys. And then on the Commanders side of the ball, same kind of thing. The Eagles, they ran the ball a lot, so it was kind of tough to judge if this Lions secondary had improved a lot. But I still think you could start Terry McLaurin and even Jahan Dotson. He had 2 touchdowns on only 5 or 6 targets. So who knows? Maybe Carson Wentz is going to be looking his direction a lot in the red zone. He seems like that type of receiver. It's what he did at Penn State. So I think you could start any of these guys this week.
Yeah, speaking of teams that can't tackle, Lions are well up there. I think Curtis Samuel's, if I'm ranking the 3, I'd probably go Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. I think just with Rivera's familiarity with him, bringing him into Washington, this is the first time he's really been healthy. He saw 10 targets last week, more than double the other 2 guys. So I'd be rolling with Curtis Samuel if he did pick him up off the wire. Yep, moving to Dolphins, Ravens. remember I mentioned this to you about the Dolphins and how often they blitz. We saw it against Mac Jones last week. And Lamar has historically really struggled against the blitz.
Yeah.
So I am a little bit worried about Rashad Bateman because I do think this Dolphins defense may keep them from being able to move the ball in the air as much as they want to.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you there. I think obviously you have to start Mark Andrews, but Rashad Bateman, like Devin Duvernay had a good game last week. I wouldn't read too much into that. When these two teams faced up last year, Dolphins beat them 23-10. So there wasn't a lot of offense, and it just goes back to T-Mac's point.
Yeah.
When Lamar Jackson is blitzed, last week when the Jets blitzed him, he had bottom 3 quarterback out of starting quarterback grades on PFF. So that's definitely a cause for concern if you own Lamar Jackson this week. And I feel like the Dolphins will dial up the same kind of game plan.
Yeah. So you're going to fire away on Lamar Jackson in terms of starting him, but you got to hope he's putting it on the ground because again, I'm a little worried about playing Bateman this week.
Yeah. For sure.
Dolphins side, we don't have too much. I think we're playing Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
You kind of have to. Like they both. Tyreek Hill obviously demanded a lot more of the targets last week, but Jalen Waddle had one touchdown that really broke one off for I think it was 50 or 40 yards. So that kind of saved his fantasy day. And but I mean you can't go wrong starting these two guys. They're both really talented. So.
Yeah, 100%. Panthers Giants. There's no way I'm going to start Robbie Anderson. There's just absolutely no way. I ain't doing that. That's not happening. He had 100 and some yards and a touchdown. He had 7 targets, 5 receptions. He had a 75-yard touchdown in that game against the Browns. We're talking one play that made his week relevant, and otherwise this guy wouldn't even be thought about as a waiver wire ad. So I'm not considering playing him here against the Giants. The Giants are looking to keep things very slow-paced, as we saw last week. So not a lot of opportunities for him to hit these big plays. It's still playing DJ Moore,
for sure.
Just considering where you're drafting him.
He was on the field for 100% of the times that Baker Mayfield dropped back last week. So I think he is obviously a much better start than Robbie Anderson this week. Robbie Anderson's been doing that for the entire time he's been in the NFL. His whole fantasy efficiency depends on that one big play because he's really fast. So I give him credit where it's due. But the Giants last week actually had a pretty shit passing grade against against the pass. This Titans offense, they don't really have a ton of receivers, obviously, but they still were able to move the ball through the air. Both the touchdowns came in the red zone to Dontrell Hilliard out of the backfield. Yeah. So that's something to note for sure. And then in terms of Giants receivers, to be honest, I'm gonna continue to sit Kadarius Toney until I get more of a reason to believe that Dable's going to include him in the game. Richie James, is that?
Richie James led the team in targets.
Yeah. I don't know if I would go out of my way to start him this week, but it's interesting to see how this kind of wide receiver room is going to pan out in New York.
Yeah, I was happy to hear Toney not get too emotional this past week.
That was a good clip from that interview.
Yeah. He's just saying that he's if we win, I don't really care. It is what it is. I'm a player, not a coach. I'm not going to decide how that kind of plays out. Give this guy some time. I still think it'll come together. Now, if we're 3 weeks from now and it hasn't, then I'm willing to drop him. I know people are dropping him in some of my leagues that I'm in, so it is what it is. Let's get to the Bucs Saints. I think we just got to talk about what we're going to do with the Saints wide receivers.
Yeah. Well, I think one, you got to start Julio. This
Julio, depending on Godwin, I haven't.
I really don't think.
I don't think Godwin's going to play.
Which makes Julio the wide receiver 2 with Tom Brady as his quarterback. So that's a very tasty matchup.
Yes.
I think Lattimore will be on Mike Evans for a majority of this game. He does tend to follow the number 1 receiver, so we could see that. On the Saints side of the ball, to be honest, looking at Michael Thomas's snap count when they passed the ball, it was one of the lowest out of all the receivers. We saw that big tight end / receiver, Juwan Johnson he had 83. He was on the field 83% of the time. Olave and Landry both 74%, and then Michael Thomas was down to 60%. He did score twice though, right?
Well, I think I do think once. That I'm just double checking here. I'm pretty sure that we had. Chris Olave led the team was tied with Michael Thomas in routes run, so they were the same. Okay. Yeah, and then Juwan Johnson was third, tied with Jarvis Landry. So these 4 guys are running out most of the time. Michael Thomas led the team tied with Landry for the lead in targets. Landry led the team in receptions. This is obviously a bit of a tough matchup against the Bucs defense. I'd probably go with Michael Thomas just because I would be more confident in him being able to score and being a red zone target, wherein Chris Olave and Jarvis Landry were more reliant on their volume. And I'm curious, most of the time when these two teams play, I guess the Saints were able to put some points up on them last year, but I think this is still a tough matchup it's a little bit tougher to trot those other two out there.
Yeah, I'm taking like a little bit of a different approach here. I think I would prefer to start Jarvis Landry over Michael Thomas just because of the catches and yards that he had. Like if he would have scored, he would have had a phenomenal fantasy week. I feel like Michael Thomas, they're still kind of getting him back to game speed, and like all the wide receivers do scare me a little bit because Jameis is kind of hurt. Like he has a back injury that's lingering. So that's something to think about against this pass rush and this defense that the Bucs have is definitely a little bit worrisome. So I would definitely tread waters lightly when you're looking at starting these Saints receivers.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Landry's running all of his routes from the slot, so that could make things easier for Winston in terms of if he's battling injury. Let's move to Jets-Browns. God, the Browns secondary is very good. The Jets spread the ball around a ton last week. There was I think there was 4 guys with 8+ targets just with how often Joe Flacco was throwing the ball. He had almost 60 attempts.
Fucking hell.
So I would not play any of Corey Davis or Garrett Wilson. My most confident guy here would be Elijah Moore in a game that will probably be a little bit slower paced, just with the Browns offense wanting to run the ball. I trust Elijah Moore to be able to break a big play. That's his MO. And with Joe Flacco, he has put up some good numbers. I know last week we didn't get a monster week from him, but I'm still Elijah Moore is a guy that if I drafted, I'm playing him each and every week because I have a lot of confidence in him. And then on the Browns side, what do you want to? You're a resident Browns guy, I guess, in the Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones department.
So I don't think I'm going to start. I would look to start any of the Jets receivers, to be honest. In DFS leagues, I would definitely look to start Donovan Peoples-Jones because of his price. But unless you're in like a 12 or 14 man league and you're reaching for wide receivers, I don't think Donovan Peoples-Jones really deserves a start. But he was one, I picked him up in a couple leagues. He had 11 targets last week. It seems like he has a good relationship with Jacoby Brissett, and he was on the field a ton, moving all over. So I think that's pretty good. I think they're trying to find ways to get him the ball. So if there was a wide receiver I had to pick to start in this game, it would be Donovan Peoples-Jones.
All right. We're moving to Falcons-Rams. I know this could be a tough matchup. It'll be interesting to see how Jalen Ramsey is used against Kyle Pitts and Drake London. Honestly, encouraging sign for Drake London, considering that he had been dealing with injury all throughout training camp, that he was able to go out there and earn a target share. 7 targets, 5 receptions for 74 yards. Kyle Pitts had the same amount of targets. Those two were the clear alphas in this offense. So I'm still able to play. I'd be able to play Drake London this week. This is a game where the Falcons are pretty significant underdogs. I think they'll be having to throw the ball a fair bit. So I have confidence in playing London and, of course, Pitts.
Yep, I would agree with those two for sure. On the Rams side of the ball, obviously you're starting Cooper Kupp. I would give Allen Robinson another chance. I feel like he kind of fell under the same umbrella as Mike Williams did last week. Obviously, I'm a little worried about Stafford's arm and what the issue is there because he didn't really look like he was throwing with a lot of power and confidence in that game. I don't know if it was week 1 jitters. Really wouldn't make sense after he's been in the league forever. So I feel like there's something lingering with that elbow injury that he was kind of nursing all season. But Allen Robinson was still on the field 90% of the time that they threw the ball. So I think if he just generates a few more targets, McVay even talked about it after the game that he wants to get Allen Robinson involved a little bit more in the offense. I still think he's someone that you could start this week.
Yeah, I think on that side of things, I think that makes sense. Like even if Tyler Higbee had great route participation, he could be someone you play if you scoop him up off the wire. Because I think they can move the ball against this Falcons defense, especially after losing to the Bills. There's a little bit extra motivation there. I don't usually like to talk about things like that. Oh, they want to score. Well, everybody wants to fucking score. Seahawks, 49ers. I think, I was encouraged with the target volume DK had. I do think they'll need to throw the ball again in this game against the 49ers. Pretty good front 4. Honestly, pretty good front 7. So where do you kind of fall with those two?
One thing to note for this game, and I was alerted by our resident weatherman, Avery Chenier, at OwnersBox here. There's supposed to be massive amount of rain in this game. It's in Seattle or San Francisco?
I think it's in San Fran.
Anyway, the weather's supposed to be really shit again for another 49ers game. I don't know if it's going to be as bad as the Bears last week, but it's going to be similar. And we're seeing that in the actual at the sports books. The lines have dropped. Like the 49ers were 10-point favorites. Now they're 8.5. The total is down to 41. So they're predicting some really, really bad weather. So I would definitely monitor that before Sunday's game to make sure you're starting the right guys.
Yeah.
But I think, honestly, I really like Ayuk this week. I think he can have a good week, especially with...
Now that you say that, though, like the weather, it'd be much like the Bears 49ers game where I just sat other than Debo, I sat every single guy in that game that was a pass catcher.
Obviously, Debo for sure, I would start, especially with Elijah Mitchell out. I feel like they're going to use him even more behind the line of scrimmage. Yep. But I think that makes Ayuk the number one receiving target. If the weather is as bad, obviously monitor that, depending on who you have. But I think he's still a valuable start this week. Metcalf and Lockett, we'll see.
If the weather's not good, I can't play. Yeah. I can't play either of them. If the weather's good, I would really like Ayuk this week. I really would.
Yeah, me too. So I totally.
We'll see what happens, I guess. But just watch the weather. Lockett's probably not a guy I'm going to be playing. He's probably going to be on my bench a fair bit. Cowboys, Bengals. God, Bengals significant favorites here at the Cowboys. I think T. Higgins looks like he's progressing well. He may actually be okay and ready to play in this game. I don't know why they would need to push it.
Yeah.
I know they lost the Steelers last week. I don't see them losing here. So if he is out, Tyler Boyd to me is an immediate top 30 guy. I think even with Hayden Hurst would be an option just with his routes run once Higgins was out was way, way up. So those are two guys you could target. On the Cowboys side, CeeDee Lamb is going to be, to me, a back-end wide receiver 2, borderline wide receiver 3, moving forward until Dak's back in my mind.
Yeah, the spread for this game is only at 7.
Oh, I thought it was at 9.
No, it moved down for whatever reason. Maybe there's a trade being processed this morning, but when I looked at the line this morning,
Jimmy
it was
G
7.
coming to town.
So I'm in the exact same kind of mindset as Tyler. I think Tyler Boyd has a great ability to be really, really undervalued this week. If T. Higgins doesn't play, obviously that changes. But even with Hayden Hurst, I think he would be a sneaky DFS play this week that you can throw in. I think Burrow's going to really go off this week. This secondary is poor, is not very good. Their pass rush is good, but if they're blitzing, we've seen Joe Burrow do wonders from the blitz. So, you know what? I encourage the blitz him because he's last week the Steelers didn't blitz a lot, or when he was blitzed, it was when he was passing the best. When he has time, he was just spending way too much time in the pocket. I think the blitz will encourage him to throw it, get the ball out quicker, and Tyler Boyd runs out of the slot, so he has those short underneath routes.
Yeah. All right, before we get to the last 4 games, we do have a boost over at BetFred this weekend.
Yes, it's the first Tyler McKillop, Ryan Sura OwnersBox 5-wide
boost.
Handshake emoji boost.
Yes, it's going to be great. So make sure, again, sign up at BetFred, bet 50, get 250. I'm on Chase Edmonds over 39.5 rushing yards. When we touched on that game earlier, I do think that the Dolphins will need to run the ball. The Ravens were one of the worst teams in the league last week against the run. They weren't great against the run last year either. I'm not seeing that changing, so I expect, Chase Edmonds had 12 carries for like 23 yards last week. He was not very good, but this is an easier matchup. Patriots to Ravens is a much improved matchup for him. So I think if he gets, his 14, 15 touches, which I think he will, because I actually do really like the Dolphins in this game, I think he'll be able to go over that number. So that's what my piece of the parlay.
Yeah, I like that. That was one prop I was looking at already. The one I took is Matt Ryan over 242.5 passing yards against this Jaguars secondary that was proven to be very bad last week. Carson Wentz threw for over 300 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. We really saw their safeties weren't ability to not allow the big play. Like Christian Kirk had some big yardage plays as well. Both of their safeties had coverage grades at PFF below 55. I think Michael Pittman would be able to blow this secondary open. Matt Ryan had 350 passing yards last week against a Texans secondary that's just as equally shit as the Jaguars. So I really don't see how he doesn't go over this number. The only really way I could think about it is if they go up really early off a bunch of Jonathan Taylor runs. But I think he'll still be able to get his volume. I think this game might be closer than some people might think. I think this
divisional matchup.
Yeah, divisional matchup. And Jaguars have played the Colts tough over the last 3 years. Like for whatever reason, I don't know why, but they have. So,
all right. So go to BetFred. Once you download the app, once you sign up, the boosted parlay will be in the NFL market. Yeah. So it's here on the screen for you. But go sign up, go take advantage, and I think we're gonna have a hell of a year hitting these parlays.
OwnersBox Player Prop Boost is what it will be titled under.
Yeah. Okay. Moving to Texans Broncos. Man, Pat Surtain had an injury that's keeping him out. I'm almost positive that happened earlier this week. I just want to double check. But I think Brandon Cooks is a player against the Broncos is someone you're obviously going to be playing. What do you think on these Broncos guys? You know who had a good game last week was Derek Stingley.
Derek Stingley,
solid week.
Yeah, I didn't look into Stingley's numbers too much. Like their coverage grade's still obviously not great. But the one thing I think Jerry Jeudy might break off as Russell Wilson's favorite target. Apart from Cortland
Justin
Sutton.
Simmons. I'm an idiot.
Oh, Justin Simmons.
Pat Surtain.
Right,
Justin Simmons.
Justin Simmons. But still, that's still a big loss to the Broncos secondary. Like I was saying, I don't know. In week 1, it seemed like Russell Wilson preferred the slot receiver compared to the wide receiver, Cortland Sutton. I think both of them obviously are starts for sure. Don't get me wrong. Against the secondary, we saw what Michael Pittman did out wide last week. But I'm just saying, off of what I watched in that Monday night game, it seemed like Jeudy was getting a little bit more love from Russ. So it's something to keep an eye on as the season progresses.
Yeah, still early, but both those guys are plays this week. Honestly, Alberto, I was very pleasantly surprised to see his route participation. That is definitely something to monitor too, because I did think KJ Hamler would have a bigger role, but they gave a few early touches to, who was it again? The tight end that had a few catches right at the start of the game and then never touched the ball again.
On the Broncos?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not sure.
He had like a 40-yard reception.
But yeah, that Alberto take starting to look too bad
it
anymore.
Actually doesn't look bad at all.
Bad. He got stopped on the half-yard line if it wasn't for him. He also has the
Andrew
most
Beck.
electric name.
That's what
Andrew Beck.
Andrew Beck.
At the beginning,
he had 52 yards.
Okay,
receiving yards.
But
so that took away from Albert's day.
Albert Okwegbunam could definitely be a start this week.
Yeah, he's the clear 3 in routes run. He was ahead of KJ Hamler. So something.
You didn't get that pronunciation. It's Okwegbunam.
Okwegbunam. Raiders Cardinals. Game here that I think could be pretty high scoring. We've got a Raiders, the Raiders offensive line, their pass blocking is pretty piss poor. The Chargers got after Derek Carr, but now this is a Cardinals team whose pass rush doesn't look nearly as good as it was last year.
Yeah.
So this could give Derek Carr some time. Honestly, I know Hunter Renfrow didn't have a great week last week, but against this Cardinals defense, I think he's someone you could play. We're going to be playing Devontae Adams and Darren Waller as well, so I think you can play all 3. What do you think about the Cardinals side of the ball?
I think it's the same kind of narrative as last week. This Greg Dortch chap really got involved in the offense with the Cardinals for whatever reason. He was targeted substantially higher than AJ Green was. It's something that Tyler and I definitely didn't anticipate. Marquise Brown and Zach Ertz did score both touchdowns. They didn't have a ton of yards or catches, but that's good to see that Kyler Murray is still targeting these guys in the red zone. I think Marquise Brown and Ertz can still be starts this week. This Raiders secondary has proven last year it's not that great, and they did know really in the offseason to make it any better. The Chargers look like Herbert was able to move the ball down the field with ease. I think Kyler Murray will be able to do the same thing. So
yeah, the thing there with Marquise Brown is I'm pretty sure he had one of the most unrealized air yards last week. So it's a couple more of those big plays, and we'll be in a really good spot with week 1, not just in a good enough spot. Bears Packers on Sunday Night Football. I saw somebody messaged about whether or not they should just drop Cole Kmet. Again, I'm not taking much from last week's game. No. They couldn't throw the ball because of the weather. I would play Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet here. I know this is a really good Packers defense, but they are going to have to throw the ball a ton because I think this Packers team will be able to put it on them, and they always have with Aaron Rodgers. So I would feel comfortable playing both of those guys this week. What do you think about the Packers side of the ball? Christian Watson did lead the team in terms of routes run. So honestly, I saw him available on the wire in a few leagues, and I was sure to scoop him up because I know he missed the big play, but he kept running out there.
I just think when Allen Lazard comes back, their just roles are going to switch, and Allen Lazard is going to get a bulk of the targets instead. I think Aaron Rodgers is begging probably Allen Lazard to play this week after what happened last week. I think he needs a little bit more certainty at wide receiver. But we saw this last year too, right? Like Rodgers and the Packers came out super slow against the Saints. Same exact thing happened against the Vikings. Their offense just wasn't clicking. Apart from A.J. Dillon, there really wasn't too many viable fantasy options that produced. Yep. I think it'll change this week. Like T-Mac said, Aaron Rodgers has owned the Bears over the course of his career. I don't think this is going to change. Sunday night primetime too. And I would think too, this Chicago's Bears offense didn't really get like a real full game in. So I feel like there's still going to be a little bit of rust in the passing game for sure. Yeah. And they have some pretty stout corners in Eric Stokes and Jair Alexander. So
yeah, the big problem for me would be like the running backs are getting tons of receiving work, and the Bears are pretty bad against the run. So how much they put up through the air is the question. But honestly, if I started anyone, assuming Al Lazard doesn't play, it'd probably be Christian Watson. Just not being thrown to the sidelines and left there after missing that massive 75-yard touchdown tells me that this is the guy they want to be the number one for as long as Lazard is out. Let's go Titans Bills. This is a game where the Titans are like 10-point underdogs on the road. I know Kyle Phillips led the team in targets. The Bills' pass defense was quite good last week. They had one of the best coverage grades in the NFL last season. How do we feel about playing any Titans receivers?
I think Robert Woods is really still, in my mind, the only one that I would trust starting. He had an okay game last week, nothing too special. He had like 3 or 4 catches. But this, and the fact though that the Giants coverage grade.
He had a terrible game. He had 1 catch for 13 yards.
Really? I started him a couple.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he had 1 catch for 13 yards. I think he led the team in routes run, so that's a good thing. Kyle Phillips was 4th in routes run. Traylon Burks well down there, 13 routes run. Again, this was a slow-paced game, so that kind of tells you a little bit about this low amount of routes run. But man, I don't think I can play any of them. I know that I'm sure they're going to be passing because I think they'll be down, but it's tough. Like honestly, Kyle Phillips is the one that led the team in targets, 9 targets. Right, so it's tough for me to play any of these guys.
Yeah. I think I would still give Robert Woods a look. But on the other side of the ball, are you starting Gabe Davis this week, Mr. Hater?
The Titans are a really good secondary. I don't want to play Gabe Davis because I think this game is another one that will be slow paced because the Titans, of course, with Derrick Henry, want to run the ball as much as they can. If I'm getting less play volume, then I need Gabriel Davis to hit a big play because I don't think his target volume is going to be high, so I wouldn't play him. But again, I would just be playing Stephon Diggs in this spot. I think Devin Singletary is going to have a big day.
I'm starting Diggs and Davis this week with confidence. I think the Bills are going to be able to score a lot.
All right, last game, Vikings Eagles. This should be. I'm loving the
Jalen Reagor revenge game, dude.
Oh, maybe he'll return a kick.
Yeah,
for a touchdown or
really
something.
Doesn't
That'd
have
be awesome.
much of a role in this offense.
Vikings side of the ball, I'm playing Adam Thielen. I'm playing Justin Jefferson. Jefferson dominated the target share. Didn't leave a lot for Thielen, so Thielen didn't have the greatest day in week 1. But again, this team was up early, so they were able to run the ball a fair bit. Eagles pass defense didn't look great against the Lions. What about the Eagles side of the ball? What do you want to do there?
To be honest, I mean AJ Brown looked phenomenal in you've said it so many times, and it's starting to become very true. He doesn't need a lot of targets to produce because he's just such a beast. Anything that hurts through him his way, he pretty much made the most out of the play. So obviously, I'm starting AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. I mean,
there's just no way I can do it.
I don't think we could do it because this Lions secondary that they just played. It's a horrible tackling team, but so are the Eagles for sure. They were really bad as well. But still, I think AJ Brown is really one of the more viable options at receiver in this receiver room. And then in terms of tight end, I think obviously Dallas Goedert, but that's it. I think I'm firm set on sitting Devonta Smith this week.
I don't even want to play Goddard, to be honest. I've never drafted him because I just didn't see how he would be able to produce enough for me from that position in terms of where he was being drafted. So I don't feel confident in playing him either. But that is every game for week 2. Again, if you guys are new to the show, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate it. Like the video. We're happy to answer any start-sit decisions. And again, BetFred, go sign up. Bet 50, get 250 over at BetFred.
And play the boost.
And go play the boost, yeah. What was it again? Chase Edmonds, over 39.5.
And Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan, 242.5.
Over 242 passes.
Let's go. All right, let's hit that. All right, see you guys in the next one.